Kevin O'Connor works for The Ringer, been covering the NBA now for a decade. He is joining us as he is prone to do. We're like Brady. We call, we ask, and he stops by. We really do appreciate that. So let's talk about the Clippers situation. I said this earlier, Kevin, is that I think they have one of the richest owners. They're building a beautiful new facility. I think Ty Lue is sensational. The executive staff is more than competent. They have very nice depth. This is a rare instance when the star is letting down the franchise. And I think, listen, they compete against the Lakers, whether they want to admit it or not. And the Lakers are old and stumbled and had to change the roster. And if they move to another round and the Clippers get bounced, do you not have to have strong discussions about moving off Kawhi?
I think if you're the Clippers and Steve Ballmer here, you get an arena opening up in 2024, a whole rebranding. It's going to be this amazing fan-centric arena. Well, to have fans have a good product to enjoy, the players need to be on the court. And with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, these guys have missed so many games over the years since they moved everything to get those guys to go there. So if you're a Ballmer, I do think, Colin, you have to at least think about what big changes can we make to this franchise to make them an appealing team. They were appealing to Kawhi and Paul George because of the young talent led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and all those young guys that they had. So maybe for the Clippers, a rebuild, a step back would be the best move forward if they don't feel like there's a path to championship contention there, because those guys will be free agents that summer in 2024.
But let me defend Paul George. At least he's verbal. He communicates. He's your two. I could make an argument if I'm Steve Ballmer and his agent. Okay, I'm not asking him to be my headliner. He is probably exiting his prime. I think Paul's still a great two-way player, and he communicates. I've been told for a year and a half that a part of this is the enigmatic nature of Kawhi's personality. You got to communicate, right? And I think they're a little bit. When I read that yesterday, Kevin, I got home and I opened up my phone and it said Kawhi not available, and it was different than every other time since he's been a Clipper. I was like, okay, that if I'm Steve Ballmer, that ticks me off.
Yeah, especially after he played game two. Yeah, it feels like, it is like a knee sprain. It is an injury, but it feels like load management during the postseason.
Right. So let's now pivot quickly to the Suns. I guess everybody else was right. I picked them to get to the finals against Milwaukee, maybe Boston, but so I thought, okay, bench is a tad overrated, but without Cameron Payne, are you surprised how quickly Chris Paul has sort of regressed as a playoff performer?
We've seen Chris Paul regress in the playoffs time and time again, or get hurt in the playoffs over and over. So in some ways, that's not a surprise. What is a surprise is just how much he is failing to perform to his standard.
Right.
And so for the Suns right now, you have Chris Paul taking more shots than Kevin Durant twice now in the series, and you have Devin Booker going off in game 3. So it doesn't matter. They get the win. But I can't help but feel like Kevin Durant, oftentimes, you see him in the second quarter, he's calling for the ball, standing in the corner for a 3. He's getting frustrated. He doesn't get a touch at all in the possession. I feel like they got to get KD more touches. He ends up with 30 points, but that's because of the free throws at the end of the game.
That's right.
They need to get Kevin Durant more involved in that offense, bringing the ball up the floor more often, and just more motion and movement within their half-court sets. And if that means turning Chris Paul into a spot-up shooter, so be it. The issue is Chris Paul's not shooting well off the catch. So I think maybe Cameron Payne coming back in the postseason, if he is able to replace that and play some of that role, then maybe you can get KD going even more to the level that he can.
Okay, I was surprised that without Peyton and Draymond, that the Warriors gave that defensive effort.
Oh yeah,
they were feisty, and were you surprised?
Yeah, very surprised. You hear Draymond's out, you're like, this is not good for the Warriors.
Yeah.
Then you hear Gary Payton's out, you're like, this feels like a potential to be a loss here. Without those two guys, they're most important defenders on the perimeter aside from Wiggins. So I was shocked there, but I felt like the Warriors came out with just such a rock-solid, highly executed game plan on the defensive end of the floor, top-locking on screens, switching with timely switches on the perimeter against those dribble handoffs you see the Kings run all the time. And Kevon Looney, this dude was the MVP last night on defense for the Warriors with his effort, the toughness against
everybody was. You could tell Kerr had said, guys, crash the board. DiVincenzo, Wiggins,
yes.
They made a point. Even the guards, Moody, get near the glass. Sabonis is a fascinating player. So I made this comp yesterday. Even J-Mac liked it. I said there's a little baby Warriors here with the Kings.
Yes.
So you have kind of an intellectual point guard who's great late, an understated Harrison Barnes Clay figure, gets his points, no ego, a theatrical tough guy, physicality, Sabonis Draymond. And at the beginning of the Warriors, you had a defensive coach, Mark Jackson, Mike Brown. And also drafted and developed Davion Mitchell for the Kings, Andre Iguodala, an elite defender off the bench. And maybe it's a bridge too far, but I do when I watch intellectually upstairs, it's Daryl Morey guys, analytics guys, defensive coach. I kind of feel, I'm not saying they're going to go on a run, but it also wouldn't surprise me if Sacramento won Game 4 this weekend. What do you make of them going forward?
I think for the Kings side of things, you can't rule them out in the series. They were great all year long, but they absolutely did miss an opportunity in that Game 3 to just completely shut the door on the Warriors. And, you know, you think about going back to Game 4 and Chase, Draymond coming back, maybe Peyton's able to return at that point.
He's sick, I think. It's a real sickness.
He is sick, yeah. So, like, we don't know yet with Game 4. But ultimately, like, I have a hard time believing a team that was 33-8 during the regular season, now 1-0 in the postseason, is going to lose that Game 4. So for the Kings, this is going to be, you know, the real test for them. You know, now that the Warriors have kind of figured some things out defensively, we'll see now how the Kings adjust. You know, I think Sabonis is going to really need to play better moving forward in the series. But, I mean, ultimately, the Warriors and Kings, they look at each other. It's kind of like the Spider-Man meme. Like, they are very familiar with each other, and they know how each other play.
Yeah, they're really intellectual teams. It's like really young people who are already adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel like Sacramento, like they know what they are, they know what they're not. They all have roles. That was very much Sacramento early. So J-Mac's pushing back on this. I said, but in the NFL, you draft somebody who's played college for 3 to 4 years. They're often married. I mean, they're older. You get 23 and 24-year-old kids. But in basketball, you get somebody that's often, he's a 19-year-old. And so Tyrese Maxey comes into the league, raw 7 a game. And I think last year, people were too quick to anoint him as a guy. And I'm like, okay, get you 17, but he has bad nights. There are nights if Tobias is hitting, and he was like the 4. And then this year, it's like, okay, he's a really, really spectacular 3. And I did think last night, it's one thing to score 30 in a blowout at home. To go on the road, Harden's gone, Embiid banged up. Kid, it's your franchise. I thought it was like a real time, Kevin, like, okay, they found their 2. They found their Tony Parker. They found their Pippen. That's what it felt. Am I hyperbolic here? That's what it felt like watching the game to me.
Well, isn't it amazing how just one successful draft pick can change how you feel about an entire franchise? Like you're saying, how he feels like they're Tony Parker. You know, he's scoring the way he did last night, as he has shown flashes of doing many times before. And it's so important in this moment because Harden gets, you know, ejected, which I thought was ridiculous after that hit. But, you know, regardless of that, Harden just hasn't had the same burst, not drawing the same amount of fouls.
He doesn't get the whistle.
Yeah, he's not finishing the same way he did around the basket, which is understandable at his age with all the miles he has on his body. But that necessitates like a guy needing to step up. And that's what Tyrese Maxey has done with his speed and burst and ability to generate offense, oftentimes against sometimes being defended by the weaker defender because that guy's defending Harden on ball. So for Maxey, it is critical for the Sixers that he's able to sustain this success moving forward for them, especially next round against Boston, a team that is equipped with far better, you know, length and versatility.
Yeah, he'll struggle a bit, but he'll struggle against Boston.
But they'll need him because Harden is going to get, you know, Boston's best defenses on ball, considering how much he runs their pick and roll with Joel Embiid. So Maxey is of the utmost importance for the Sixers to get past the second round, and we know how things could potentially go if they don't get past Boston next round.
Okay, so let me go to the technicals. So let me talk the Embiid one first. Is that I believe, I saw this with Pippen and the Knicks, that if you try to straddle, and it's kind of a junk move, when you try to straddle a player, you have a right to clear space. If you invade my space, I have a right to clear it. Now, he gets a flagrant 1, but I'm going to give him, look, now watch Claxton, he steps up over him to go to his waist to question your man. It's kind of a questioning manhood thing. So Embiid deserves a flagrant 1. Watch this, though. He steps forward. He could have easily, Kevin, moved back, moved around. So I'm going to defend Embiid to just get a flagrant 1 there because it was provoked. Am I crazy?
I think it's fair. I do. I mean, I think with Draymond, it was rightfully a flagrant 2. I mean, just the way he stomped. With Embiid, feels like a flagrant 1 is better, and I hope he doesn't get suspended. I think that'd be absurd if he were for this.
Okay, now Harden did appear to punch a man in the groin, who I
Was that really a punch, though?
Well, let's okay, let's look at the video. See, I don't think this defender is invading his space. I think he's no watch. That's just defending somebody. Now, there is some theatrical liberties taken. You don't think that's a flagrant?
No.
You think it's a flagrant 1?
I mean, I don't think he should be ejected from the game for that. I mean, you got to let him have his space to attack off the dribble, and sometimes your arms go somewhere they don't intend to go.
Come on. I don't know. That feels like if you punch a guy. I always believe, like, if you invade my space, I can create it. But that doesn't mean I can't guard you. Like,
sure.
Embiid's space was invaded. I'm going to hover over you.
But that was after the play, though. This was, like, within the flow of the action.
So that's
like,
why
it was while play was happening. I mean, I think, personally, the Embiid one, if you're comparing them, the Embiid one was worse. The Harden one, I was shocked when he actually got ejected for that. We've seen him bump guys so many times before.
Okay, so now let's pivot to the Lakers and the Grizzlies series. So you're not going to obviously there's rumors the Hawks would move off Trae Young, and everybody's almost kind of okay with it. And it's like, okay. But when you consider, hey, what about moving off Ja Morant? There's whoa. But here's what's interesting. His backup leads the NBA for half a decade straight on turnover to assist ratio. They're a better defensive team without Ja. That's not arguable. The spacing's better, and they win a little more. So it's interesting. Why are we willing to move off Trae without a lot of pushback when he's a top 10? Isn't he a top 10 assist guy? He's an elite scorer. But the suggestion with Ja, who's also had some personal moments that are regrettable. But so I said yesterday, we can all move off Trae, and everybody's like in line with it. But if you're the Grizzlies, you could get a haul for him. I wonder sometimes if they're not better without him. Am I nuts? The stats don't lie.
I mean, they have been a dominant team without Ja, with it's just like unlike any other team without their star. But Colin, Ja does raise your ceiling. When we've seen him score 40 plus in the postseason, his downhill attacking.
But doesn't Trae Young do that?
Trae, he's been an inefficient scorer throughout his career. He's had one good year shooting from behind the arc. He's a major negative on the defensive end of the floor. Yeah. We've seen how Kevin Huerter, you mentioned him earlier, looking like Clay Light with Sacramento. He was a corner shooter, spot-up guy with Atlanta. I mean, I think with Trae Young, some of his greatest qualities as a playmaker with the passes he can make in the half court, sometimes with the ball hogging, he can make guys worse and limit their ceilings. Ja Morant is a bit more of a ball sharer. He can play with Desmond Bane within their half court. And Ja, I just think Ja has proven to be the more dynamic downhill at-rim scoring presence.
That's fair, yes. So you consider Ja considerably better than Trae Young?
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
Okay, you do. All right, but that's maybe why everybody keeps saying, because one guy we're all move him out of town, bring the U-Haul trucks. The other guy, it's considered an outrageous suggestion.
It's also like team culture. Like Ja, like despite some of the negatives you talk about,
feels like Memphis.
Well, he is Memphis, and like I think those players in that locker room really love him. You can't say the same thing about Trae in Atlanta.
Okay, so I think the most interesting matchup, because the West is kind of up for grabs. Boston matches up very well against Philadelphia. I could almost predict that series, that Embiid's going to get his, but Maxey and Harden will be limited because Boston has Marcus Smart, rim protection, Jaylen Brown, and I just don't think Maxey is ready to go up against Boston and vanquish the Celtics. But the Milwaukee series with Boston is interesting because Milwaukee is getting very, very old in front of our eyes. It allows Tatum and Brown to get to the basket kind of at will. And that's the series. I think everybody in the NBA, we're kind of just waiting for that series. The other night I'm watching Boston play, and I'm like, man, they've got almost just as many guys who can hit a jumper as Milwaukee. I was so steadfast in my Bucks belief. This morning, who would you take?
Milwaukee still, but that assumes Giannis is able to get back to 100%. I picked the Bucks before the season. I picked them before the playoffs to win the finals. then Giannis gets hurt. So, I mean, at this current moment, you have to lean Boston with their amount of depth, with their upside. I mean, they're neck and neck with Milwaukee, even with Giannis at 100%. But, like, Giannis's health, we'll see if he does end up returning in the series against the Heat and how he looks as he progresses when he does return. But I think with the Bucks, Giannis is the best player in the world right now. You mentioned, at rim for Boston, Brook Lopez is one of the best rim protectors in the league. Yeah. Giannis is their most important defender. I had him third in my Defensive Player of the Year ballot. Drew Holiday, one of the best point-of-attack defenders in the world. And they have good, quality, tough, hard-nosed, off-ball defenders that surround those three guys. So for the Celtics in their half court, they still have had moments over the course of the season, despite their success, where they've just fallen stagnant, gone into bad habits like we saw in the postseason last year against the Warriors. So against that Bucks defense, if Giannis is healthy, that's going to be the true test for them. And in some ways, Celtics-Bucks might end up feeling like the true finals.
But if I was like Bill Simmons, and I was a Celtic fan, I could talk myself into saying they both have elite rim defenders. And the Celtics are a twitchier version of Milwaukee. They both have great backcourt defenders, Marcus Smart, Drew Holiday. They both have great rim defense. But the Celtics are the twitchier, more athletic team.
I think that's fair in a lot of ways because, especially with Chris Middleton, we still need to see him sustain
he's not
success.
The same player.
He has a great game in the series against the Heat, but he needs to prove that he can sustain it like he has in past postseasons.
If they lose, if Boston doesn't get to the finals, do you make a move?
Probably. I think you got to try to re-sign Jaylen Brown. That'd be still of the utmost
I don't want to break
for
those two up.
No, I don't think you want to do that.
Do you move Marcus Smart?
I mean, the tough part, Colin, with Boston is they feel like such a complete overall team.
Watch them pass.
Yeah, with Derek White, Marcus Smart.
Their intellectual bandwidth. You can tell the teams that don't load management. Boston's passing, it's almost like Steph and Dre and Clay. They've got so many games together, Kevin. It's like they don't think. Boston's passing is what you look like when you don't take games off. It's so smart. It's so crisp. All right, you got to call him out? Kevin O'Connor, you got to call him out today?
Got the ringer. I got Beyond the Arc on it's coming out next Tuesday, and Mismatch as well. So doing a lot of podcasting, a little bit of writing as well.
Say hi to Bill. Congrats on the ringer. All your success as well. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.